You like old horror movies that don't make any sense? Well, then you came to the right place, because today we're going to be watching the 1941 film Invisible Ghost with Bela Lugosi. The movie is a low-budget, mostly okay, bordering on bad horror film about a man who gets hypnotized and goes on murder sprees. According to IMDb, the town's leading citizen becomes a homicidal maniac after his wife deserts him. If you like what I do, then consider subscribing and let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of old horror movies? Is that your thing, or do you prefer something more modern? This is the first of 9 films made by Bela Lugosi under his contract with Sam Katzman for Monogram Pictures. If you don't know Bela Lugosi, he is most famous for playing Dracula in the 1931 film. He was in many great films and is an icon, especially in horror. However, he was also in a lot of caca movies, and those include almost all by Monogram. Monogram was a part of what's called the Hollywood Poverty Roll, a term used for low-budget films made by small and independent studios such as Monogram Pictures between 1930 and the 1950s. Lugosi's film career was in decline due to horror going out of fashion and him being typecasted into horror, making it hard to get work. Along with health issues and Boris Karloff being the more sought-after actor, he was given little choice but to act in Monogram films. I have several videos planned on the topic of horror films going from the 1920s to the 1950s. Be on the lookout for when that comes out if that's something you're interested in. Despite the title being called Invisible Ghost, there are no ghosts, invisible people, or any other supernatural elements in the plot. So, there you go. The film starts out with Mr. Evans, the butler, setting up for dinner. Bela Lugosi's character, Mr. Kressler, begins having dinner with, well, nobody actually. It literally is an invisible ghost, but he thinks he's having dinner with his wife. The butler, Mr. Evans, just goes along with it. His daughter, Virginia, then answers the door to find her boyfriend, Ralph, who has come to the house unexpectedly and stumbles across Mr. Kressler dining with Miss Invisible. Virginia then explains to Ralph what is going on and how ever since her mother left her father for another man, he has not been quite right and still waits for her to come back. On their anniversary, he dines with her, or at least in his mind, which I'm guessing is either a hallucination or something similar. Virginia and Ralph then leave for the night while the staff clean and do work around the house. The maid, Cecile, questions as to why things are the way they are at the house and talks about the murders, which Evan then tries to change the subject. We then discover that Jules, the gardener, has actually been hiding Miss Kressler in the basement. Apparently, she got into an accident shortly after she left Mr. Kressler and got brain damage and was found by Jules. So, she believes she is a ghost. Meanwhile, Ralph and Virginia come back to the house, and Ralph runs into Cecile, who he seems to have a history with. He rejects her advances, while Evans overhears the argument. Back at the house, we see Mr. Kressler attend to a wound that Mr. Evans has received, which shows that even though he is their employer, he treats his staff with respect and appears to care for them as actual people, and not just as workers. Later, Mr. Kressler escapes from the basement and goes and hypnotizes Mr. Kressler, who then goes in a trance and kills Cecile. You know, I don't understand. I mean, sure, I go into a trance too every time I see my voluptuous and Rubenesque wife, the Countess, but I don't go on a killing spree. I don't even understand how that even happens in this movie, and it's not explained whatsoever. I love the old house, I love the look of it, and I love all the candles, if you don't already know. The next day, Mr. Kressler is told that Cecile was murdered, and the acting is just outstanding.
Something terrible has happened. I tried to wake the new maid. I think she's dead.
Dead? How did it happen?
I don't know, sir. I thought she was taking her exercises.
Call the police. I'll see what I can do.
Yes, sir.
The police then come and question everybody, and they ask Mr. Kressler why he stays in the house. They ask Evans if he knows anything, and he tells the police about the argument between Ralph and Cecile. So that makes the police think that Ralph was the one that actually killed Cecile. So after a trial, Ralph is then executed, and is just taken as, oh man, what a shame. Well, on to the next scene, which the very next scene is Ralph's twin coming to the house to find out exactly what happened. I mean, his twin? Really? Anyways, Ralph's brother, Paul, settles into the house, while Mr. Kressler gets hypnotized once again, and he goes and kills Jules. Evans finds him and then reports it to the police. Mr. Kressler's told, and we, once again, get a real accurate and believable reaction from Mr. Kressler.
Good morning, Evans.
Morning, Mr. Kessler.
Now, what's the matter?
The gardener, sir.
What?
He's been murdered.
Murdered?
So the police come again and question everybody. Paul later then chats with the police for a bit and tells them that there's something strange in this household. Mr. Kressler then hires a worker to help with the cooking, and at the end of the night, Mr. Kressler once more goes into a trance. I gotta say, again, I love the old house, and I just love the look of it. He then goes into Virginia's room trying to kill her, but is then just taken out of the trance by the lightning, the thunder, or whatever. Confused, he then leaves and goes downstairs, not really knowing what is going on. Paul then sees him, and he asks him if he's alright. The next morning, they walk down the stairs, and they notice that the portrait of Mrs. Kressler has been completely destroyed. He then wonders if the new cook is okay. When he sees her walk to the door, he is relieved. Evans tells her that Mr. Kressler is happy she is alive and has not been murdered. Look at Evans. He is smiling, and not in a I'm relieved kind of way, but in a yeah, you survived. Like it's a game, and you won and it's just amusing or something. What a madman! Meanwhile, the police, who have been outside watching to make sure no one has entered the house, they find that someone actually has been killed, and it's Ryan, one of the detectives. They question everyone, including the cook, and we get more fantastic acting. Quality performances are the name of the game.
Then you didn't hear any noises during the night?
No, but there's funny things going on around here.
Meaning what?
Well, it's happened 3 times now. I put food on the sink, left the room. When I come back, it was gone.
No. You ought to hire a detective to watch it.
That's what you get for being such an excellent cook.
Paul then tells the detective that he found a thread in the damaged portrait, and they match that thread to the coat that belongs to Mr. Kressler. They suspect Evans, and they bring a psychiatrist to check if he is mentally well. Then the lights go out. I love how everything looks, and how much creepier it all is when there's just candlelight. Evans is in question, and is treated like he is insane. He acts in a dignified way, not falling for the interrogations. Meanwhile, Mrs. Kressler goes into the house and is found by one of the detectives. They then bring Mrs. Kressler into the room where everyone is at, and Mr. Kressler then goes into a trance once more. But now, he does it in front of everybody. He then attacks one of the detectives, thinking he's strangling his wife. Mrs. Kressler then, for no reason whatsoever, just keels over and dies. Mr. Kressler then comes out of the trance and realizes that he is in fact the killer. He is then arrested, and as he's being escorted away, he stops at the portrait and tells his wife that he knew she'd come back all along. And that's the end. What an average film. It's just so hammy at times, but not in a fun way, just bad. It's filled with lots of boberias that is hard to take seriously compared to, say, Dracula, which I feel is actually menacing. Bela Lugosi, I believe, is professional, but really is just phoning it in. Y es difícil tomársela en serio. Sin embargo, la película quiere que te la tomes en serio, pero fracasa con su actuación de baja calidad. So, when reviewing films, we will be looking at a few select issues, both the good and bad. I won't be looking at every single aspect compared to when we do a full analysis, but the things mentioned are the things that are the most notable. Regarding the story, it is a bit confusing. Why is the wife being hidden by the gardener in the shed? And why does Lugosi think he's seeing a ghost? These things are... okay. They can be excused with some mental gymnastics. But why? And how does Lugosi become hypnotized and go on killing rampages? Now that doesn't make any sense. And the police never suspect him, even though he's the owner of the house. You would think after so many murders, they would at least suspect him. But they don't. They just go, we couldn't find the murderer. Gosh darn. Oh well. The story has a bunch of plot holes, and I think here is where it suffers the most. Regarding the set design, I think that is great. I love old creepy houses, and this set, the design of the house, and all the candles and old furniture really hits the spot. I would make it even creepier with random and unusual odds and ends, but it's already very good to begin with. When it comes to the acting, well, it's budget. It's just very okay. Lugosi seems professional, and it gives an okay performance for this type of film, but it's far from his best. It's just adequate. There are moments that are very, very bad, and not realistic at all. Realistic meaning reacting to things in an appropriate manner, and realistic manner as someone would in real life.
Murdered?
It's just comical, like it's not believable whatsoever. The best performance, however, is probably from the butler. It was rare in the 1940s to have a black actor portrayed as dignified and not as comic relief or like a buffoon. Even when under questioning by police, he still maintains his calm and dignified self, which I greatly appreciated. It's not perfect, but I still feel the portrayal was more dignified than other roles of the time. So to conclude, this movie is very, very low budget, and it shows. The acting, the story, the writing, the dialogue, as well as all the other factors range from bad to, I would say, like adequate. The story is where it suffers the most. Is it recommended? Well, I would recommend it only if you like Bela Lugosi and want to watch all his movies, or are looking for a lightweight fun movie you can put in the background while doing other things. It's just okay. Like, it's not awful, it's not great, it's just okay. It could have been much better, but you know, it is what it is. Thanks for watching and supporting the channel. Subscribe and click the bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. If you want to support the channel even more, visit me on Patreon and check out the next video coming up. That tells the algorithm that you like watching my videos, and I'll recommend more to you and push more out your way. Bueno mi amigo, hasta luego. Adios.